Good evening. This Board of Selectmen meeting in the town of Adams, Wednesday, May 17th, 2023, is now called to order. As the first order of business, I'd invite everyone to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our next order of business is the approval of minutes. We do have 3 sets of minutes here. April 19th, meeting minutes, April 27th, workshop minutes, and May 3rd, meeting minutes. And I believe all members can vote on the April 19th and the April 27th.
I'll make a motion the board waive a reading of the minutes and approve them as provided for April 19th and April 27th, 2023.
I have a motion by member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by member Rosenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or an abstention? Okay.
I'll make a motion the board waive a reading of the minutes and approve them as provided for May 3rd, 2023.
I have a motion by member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by member Rosenberg, or Vice Chair Rosenberg. Any discussion?
Yes, on page 6, Article 4, I don't think that what I said was construed properly, and member Novak stated that currently feels that he is being slighted by the rate of pay that selectmen receive. Carol, who is here, member of the Finance Committee, did some research comparing the compensation of board members in Adams to other communities in the county. And it's correct that Carol was going to share this, and I said, well, I'll be attending the meeting of the at the Finance Committee, and I said you can bring that up at the town meeting, but never did, in the context, did I hear Carol say that she did some research comparing the compensation of board members in Adams to other communities in the county. When she stepped forward here, I want to thank her. She came up and she said that she will keep her word and look into it, but never did she say that she did some research comparing the compensation of board members in Adams to other communities in the county. And I'd just like to expand on that somewhat. It appears to me that this, my asking has never been looked at in good faith. It's immediately was a full court press against me. And one reason I say that is at a Finance Committee meeting, I brought this subject up, and Chairperson Hoyt said that, well, I'm looking into this, and Williamstown does not get stipends for being on the select board. And what kind of made it a little bit more, well, I'd say intense for me, is when our administrative aide came up and said, well, Lennox doesn't get money too. So it just seems to me throughout the course of this, there was never a good faith to try to find a compromise on the stipends for people that serve on boards that are elected in the town of Adams. They're all local people. And as was done in the past, if people wanted to give up their stipend, they would be free to do so. So I just want to bring that to the forefront, and that's all I have to say on that.
So your correction on the minutes would be what?
My correction would be that Carol did not say anything other than she came up and nicely said, I gave you my word, I'll look into it. I would like to do away with that she did some research comparing compensation of board members in Adams to other communities in the county. That was never conveyed to me in the context of when Carol came up.
So the correction would be Carol Cushionetti, member of the Finance Committee, offered to share her findings with Member Novak at a Finance Committee meeting.
That's correct.
Okay. So, Member Blanchard and Vice Chair Rosenberg, are you okay with the minutes with this correction?
I don't know, because I thought she said she did start looking into it.
I think we can check the tape, right?
Right, please do.
We could. I think that removing it still shows that you offered to share your findings. And I think that that would be true of what took place without being specific about research of compensation and, okay.
Okay, then I'll amend it.
Okay. And will you second
Yes.
that? Okay. Any other discussion on the May 3rd meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? And an abstention?
I abstain. I was absent from that meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, that brings us to public comment. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak with the Board of Selectmen? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We do have, under old business, a set of meeting minutes from March 21st. I believe we tabled. Is that correct? Yes, Member Blanchard, you did table this motion, and it was seconded by Vice Chair Rosenberg. So the minutes have been amended. They were tabled because on page 2, in the last paragraph, the dollar amount had been cut off, and that has since been added into the minutes. So the minutes are able to be put back on the table for approval.
I'll make a motion that we put the April 27th, 2023 minutes back on the table.
March 21st, sorry.
March 21st?
Yeah, sorry if I misspoke. They would be the fourth set in your materials.
I'll make a motion to put the March 21st, 2023 minutes back on the table.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Vice Chair Rosenberg. So as I stated on page 2, the sentence about a full-depth reconstruction of Park Street for about 1,000 feet, that sentence was missing a dollar amount. It now includes the estimate of $800,000 to $1 million. So if the board is okay, we can go ahead and take I'll need a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion, the board waive a reading of the minutes and approve them as provided for March 21st, 2023.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or an abstention? Okay. All right. We'll move on to new business. And the first item on the agenda is an update on the Adams Cleanup Day. And with us here is Jay Mazur from the Northern Berkshire Events Committee as he's making his way up. I know that you've received some thank yous from members of the community, members of the board, members of the staff, but, you know, thank you publicly. Thank you for all of your efforts. It was wonderful to see the amount of people who came out on a Saturday, May 6th, to come and spruce up town. I know that there were some board members who came in and helped you. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, guys. Jay Mazur with Northern Berkshire Events Committee tonight. Like you said, we did a Adams Spring Cleanup event on May 6th. Extremely well attended, I have to say. We had 31 volunteers between the groups of the Adams Beautification Project and Northern Berkshire Events Committee, and then just from the community. So I just wanted to thank all the volunteers that came out. It was really heartwarming to see that. Just wanted to give the board an update since I was here 2 weeks ago just to present it. Figured you guys deserve some results here. So the main cleanup started at the train depot station where we replanted some of the vegetation that was out there. It might not look perfect yet, but there is mulch that will be delivered and put in there. And once that comes in, it's going to look really, really nice. So a lot of the overgrowth there was taken out. We moved on to the Sail Park on Pleasant Street. And that was a massive cleanup job. There was a lot of debris removed from there, among other stuff, but it was a massive cleanup effort at that park. I have to say, community members have come up and said they didn't even know that park existed. So now they do, they can see it, and I think that's great. It's a project that will be ongoing there, but I thought that was a great effort there. Beyond that, there was a lot of trash cleanup along the Hoosick Street, Summer Street, and Winter Street. Coming back, there was a lot of stuff picked up there. And along the Asheville-Cook Rail Trail from starting at the Visitor Center going north to Cook Street and then down towards Pleasant Street and into Park Street, there was a lot of trash cleanup there. All in all, I think I lost count at 67 bags of compost and garbage that were taken out. So I have to thank Tim and the guys at the DPW for cleaning up the mess after we brought it all to them and left it for them. Hopefully they were surprised in a good way, but I know I was definitely surprised at how much we got out of there, and it was a great collaborative effort. So just want to thank everyone involved. On the select board here, Chairwoman Hoyt, thank you for opening up the visitor center for us and giving us facilities to use. That was major. And Vice Chair Rosenberg, thank you for coming in and pulling up some roots with me. I know I was sore the next day. I don't know how yours was. And then Member Novak, thank you, Joe, for, I didn't get a chance to thank you afterwards for going up there along East Road there. East Hoosick, yeah, that was the biggest bag that we got, so thank you for that. You definitely won the award for the biggest bag filled up, and I've had a lot of people in the community, both on that day, just saying thank you, and then afterwards, just noticing a difference. So just want to thank you guys for the opportunity and for the support, and we hope to do this again. But we saved the beautification group probably, they said a couple months worth of work in one day, but hopefully they got them jump started and we can go from there. So thank you guys so much. Awesome.
Thank you.
I good?
We hope it's an annual event.
I hope so.
And
I hope
count
so.
us in.
Through the
Yeah.
chair, may I just make
Sure.
a comment?
Sure, Member
I'd
Novak.
like to thank you very much for your group. It makes a big difference when you come into town and you see things neat, because what people see first is what they think of a community. I brought this up before. When I worked at a state park as a supervisor, I always made sure that the entrance looked perfect, because when people come in, it's what they see first that makes their stay a difference on it. And it was nice to see everybody there doing it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. All right.
And comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Congratulations for getting that amazing turnout, because it's really community involvement which makes the quality of life in a town. And you folks proved what we can do when we pull together to make something happen. So thank you very much.
Oh, very welcome. Yeah, it was a great day. We got lucky with the weather too. That was a big help.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we went from a week of rain to like the first nice day, and to get people to come out and work on the town properties rather than their own property, I thought was pretty impressive. So
Yeah.
that was great.
And you still had over 30 people show up on like the first beautiful day.
Yeah, so we hope to even bring more people out in the future. We definitely got to jump start it, but there's a lot of other areas that will definitely need it in the future. And yeah.
Great.
And just
Thanks.
quickly, I'd like to say, having done East Hoosick Street, you go down it now, there's trash.
Yeah.
People are just, I don't understand it.
You removed a lot out of there. That was a really good effort, but there's still, it's an ongoing problem, I think, everywhere, but
Right, yes, it is everywhere.
definitely on especially the back roads here too.
Yeah.
It's always a mess, unfortunately, but you show people can get out there and start picking it up, maybe it might change a few minds, maybe. Awesome, guys.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. All right. So that brings us to item B, under new business, update on Memorial Day Parade. I've invited Joe Martin to come in and talk to us about what's going on with the Memorial Day Parade. I know Joe has been recruited by the Legion to head up the parade efforts, so thank you for that. And we'll turn it over to you to let us know what's
The
going on.
Memorial Day Parade is scheduled for May 29th. 10 a.m. kickoff. We spoke with the police chief yesterday. He's all set with the road closures. They're also handling the kids' bicycle unit. They're working on trying to get coupons for cones, ice cream cones for the kids when they decorate their bike and they come down. In case of rain, we asked for the Memorial School Gymnasium.
I'll look
We're
to the
asking,
town administrator to see if that's a
Oh,
possibility.
we'll have to get back to you, Joe. I don't know if it's gonna be set up for town meeting by then or not.
it was either that or the Adams Fire Station, but we thought the gymnasium was bigger for our ceremony.
Yeah,
It's not gonna rain though, we're gonna have nice weather.
that should be okay. But
gonna be
we'll get
beautiful.
back to you. Just let me confirm it with the facilities, but we'll get back to you. There shouldn't be a problem.
Recruit Jay Meswar. He brings good weather.
Everything's ready to go. Is there any questions from the board?
No, I don't.
Madam Chair, I have a
Yeah.
question. Each year, the budget includes funding for the Memorial Day Parade, which I've been told is for the Irish Bagpipe Band, whatever.
Yes.
Is that a band that will be in this year's?
We tried to get the Berkshire Highlanders, but I
Highlanders.
believe they are disassembled.
Oh, that, really?
Because I've tried and tried and tried on Facebook, tried calling them, no one has responded. I messaged them on Facebook and there's no response. I tried other organizations from Springfield, Greenfield, and unfortunately, they're all booked for this year.
Okay, thank you
Well, we'll try next
thank you
year to
for
get it.
reaching out.
Get one next year.
Okay,
But for right now, the only band we have is the Hoosick Valley High School.
okay, thank you.
Other questions for Joe? Okay. So excellent. And would you like the Board of Selectmen to be at the parade?
Yes.
And if so, what time?
9:30.
Thank you. So if everybody can mark 9:30 on their calendars for Monday, May 29th.
Whoever's the walkers, I know one of yous bring a car.
Yep, so,
Do you bring a car?
Maybe.
so we'll have to let Joe know if there will be a car.
I'll let you know.
Okay,
Just so I can put it in.
yes.
We're working towards that. I think it'll be ready.
It's the same old routine as always. Last year, when I walked it, I was very, very pleased with the turnout from the town.
Yeah.
There was a lot of spectators.
Yep.
I'm hoping that it's bigger this year, but
Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate you spearheading this. And
Thank you.
I know that you'll do a nice job with the lineup,
yes.
as you do with all parades, so.
Yes, I do all the parades and I do everything.
I do know that. That's good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
All right. So that'll bring us to item C under new business. And there is an Adams Bike Month event coming up this Saturday, May 20th. And I know the Community Development Office has been working on a really nice day. We're also hoping for some sun and some nice weather. So again, we'll have to recruit somebody to come and help us with that. But Becky Ferguson is here from Community Development to talk to us about what is planned for Bike Month.
Yes. So we're hosting Adams Trail Day on Saturday as part of a county-wide events that are going on all month in celebration of Bike Month. We will have a community ride / walk at 9 o'clock, and at then 10 there'll be coffee and donuts, and the Berkshire Bike Council, and Berkshire Outfitters, and the Old Stone Mill, and A few other folks will be there tabling and with bikes to ride and safety demonstrations and bike maintenance demonstrations. There is rain predicted, so there may not be a ride, but we will be there anyways, and we'll just move inside the visitor center and do what we can, and there'll still be coffee and donuts.
That's the important part, the coffee and the donuts. Any questions for Becky? I know she's put a flyer in our materials. Thank you. Yep. Awesome. Anything? Thank you for your efforts. I know you have a committee that's working on that. If you could pass along our gratitude to the committee as well. Okay. Excellent. All right. So item D, the ratification. This was put on the agenda in hopes that all of the onboarding processes would be complete in time of this meeting, but they have not been completed. So I'm asking that the board not take any action on this ratification this evening. So we'll move on to item E. Review and approve the application for public entertainment license for the Berkshire Ferry Festival, and I believe that Sarah is with us. So Sarah, if you want to come on up, introduce yourself. I know the next two items anyway are yours for the Berkshire Ferry Festival.
They are, yes. I'm Sarah Rose Miller. I'm the director for the Ferry Festival this year. I'm new to that position, so this is my first time speaking in front of your group. It's on July 17th, which is a Saturday. We're doing 10 to 9 p.m. and we are also hoping for sun, so whatever you can do to make that happen, because we didn't have that last year. But we're planning on having a full docket of entertainment, music, dancing. There's going to be vendors, food, archery demonstrations, and the full gamut. So I believe part of the process is I needed to ask your permission.
Yes. Just a clarifying question. It's June 17th, right?
Didn't I say that? No.
I think you said July. That's okay.
I really want it to be July 17th, I think. Sorry.
That's
June
okay.
17th.
June 17th.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. And welcome.
Oh, thanks.
Okay.
I love your notes on here, Sarah, and that.
I was very honest with you about
Yes.
what's happening.
But I like that. We're excited to continue this tradition in Adams. So, thank you.
Even though I'm still asking permission, figured I'd just throw it in there.
Required by Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 183A. Let's be clear about that one.
All right. That's why you're in that seat. and I'm over
Yes,
here.
yes, ma'am. For better or for worse.
Yep.
Is there anything else I could give for clarity on the event? I believe this is our 4th year.
What's involved with the archery demo?
So it's a demonstration only. There's a gentleman who is experienced and he has a variety of different items that people can spectate. There's no participation from the people. And all of our performers that have any kind of risk, including Raven Baines, which is a fire demonstration, they all have their own liability insurance. And just as a quick note, we were approved for our liability insurance today with Dave Bazillion. So please say yes.
That was sent to me later this afternoon.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Hopefully you'll be there with us.
Yeah, well, it looks like everything's in order for the public entertainment license, and thank you for sending over your insurance document earlier today. Does the board have any other questions on the entertainment license?
I would just like to make a comment. I was involved very much with the agricultural fair. I co-founded it when I was 22 years old, and I go by that field and I almost tear up because it's really in rough shape compared to what it used to be. I mean, as you go into the entrance now, there's like beer cans, beer bottles, you know, just strewn everywhere. The little entrance building that was post and beam, I haven't gone in, but I see all the screens laying on the ground, and makes me think kids are in there drinking and that type of thing. And it just saddens me to see that our fair is gone, but I'm glad that, you know, the continuation, the Ferry Fest, I think it's been more than 4 years that that's been going on, for sure, more than 4, because I was still on the board then. But the Ferry Fest is really been a good addition to the community. It makes everybody that goes there be a princess or a prince, you know, they enjoy it,
Whatever
the
you
kids.
wanna be,
That's
yeah.
right, whatever you want to be, yeah.
Right, yeah.
So, best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
I can assure you there won't be people drinking.
No, I know, I understand that, it's just that no one's down there anymore for the fair to take care of the grounds, and, you know, I mean, that was kind of my farm that I never had, the way I took care of it. I had a lot of pride in it, but,
Thank you.
yep.
Thank you.
So is there a motion to approve the public entertainment license?
I'll make a motion to approve, that the board approve the public entertainment license application for Berkshire Mountain Ferry Festival on June 17th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Great. I have a motion by Member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Vice Chair Rosenberg. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or an abstention? That is unanimous. And the second item that Sarah has in front of us is an application for a permit to place a sign on a public way identifying Town Hall, Library Lawn, Memorial Park, and the Adams Visitor Center to put a lawn sign or a flyer of some sort to promote the Ferry Festival. And I would just ask that any signs that are put up would just be done in coordination with the town administrator's office. So I know that you've been working with Bree already, but just to make sure that everyone's on the same page if this were to be approved. I would just
Of course,
ask for
if
that.
it's approved, absolutely. The graphics for these things were just finished on Monday, but once we get to that point, I'll make sure that's shared with you.
Thank you. What was the board's pleasure?
My only question, I mean, signs, are they like the political signs you see, or are they great big signs, or?
So I'm going to answer this to the best of my ability. I know for a fact there are the kind of signs that are like, I guess that's 2 feet, just a couple wires. We're going to change the dates from the previous year, so it's the same thing that was used for 2022. I know there are some banners, but I am not specifically asking for that in this because I need to confirm that we're using them again. But for now, it's really just the smaller 2-foot signs. And if there's more, I'll come back.
Make a motion, board approve the application for permit to place a sign on a public way for the Adams Ferry Festival, locations to be Town Hall, Library Lawn, Memorial Park, Adams Visitor Center, and Route 8, east and west?
Memorial Park, east and west sides.
East and west side, all right.
Okay, I have a motion by Member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Rosenberg. Any discussion?
Yes, through the chair, I would suggest, because a lot of people drive by Route 8, and the day of the Ferry Fest, you should have some signs indicating, because Old Columbia Street isn't known by too many people. People that go to the Ferry Fest over the years will understand how to get there, but you know, you get some people just out of curiosity, but you're gonna need some signs, you know, saying, we used to put them up for the fair, and, you know, we got permission from the people that own the businesses just for the day to put them, and, you know, so that they know it's coming up. We put them about a half a mile away and say, well, we did the fair, you could say Ferry Fest, 1/2 mile left when you're coming, you know, going north, and then on the right when you're going south, so that they would know where to go. And then right at that intersection, we used to have a sign so they would know that was the road, because it's, if you don't know about it, it's a hard find.
Completely understand. Also, when you Google Bow Field, it takes you through the Greylock Ice backway.
Right, yes.
So we're trying to quell that.
Yeah.
We're also looking at possibly having, and hopefully having, a police detail with traffic, just to make sure there's more of a spectacle, not just signage. But that's not confirmed yet, but it's something we're working on.
And the top parking lot, we used to have that, but there's trees down now and it hasn't been cut. And that's not owned by the town, that's owned by Patrica Company. But that was always extra parking and it came in handy.
I'll connect with Gail on that, because she's the aficionado
Yeah.
for historically what's been done, but
Yeah.
that's all happening right now between now and June.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or an abstention? That's unanimous.
Awesome.
Thank you. We look forward to the event. All right, that brings us to item G. We have a weekly entertainment license in front of us for 57 Park Street. At our last meeting, Leah King, who owns 57 Park, talked to us about some of the ideas that she has for the space there, the courtyard area. So she is looking for an entertainment license for 57 Park Street to provide, I guess, some entertainment. Bree, I don't know if there was anything else.
No, I know that we talked about it very briefly when we were all gathered in this room not too long ago. But I gave her the application that day. She got it back to me. It should be pretty standard. Looks like she got all of her paperwork in, so.
And she's looking for the hours of 5 to 8 p.m. And it looks like it's Saturdays. Not every Saturday, but just Saturdays here and there. But she would be advertising those. She's looking for the entertainment license for the year to do that.
Isn't the entertainment license usually covered a week?
Is Monday through Saturday. The Sunday entertainment license is a separate, because that one is controlled by the state.
Correct.
So that's the weekly is Monday through Saturday.
Right. I only ask because why limit it to Saturday? If she decides, you know, as far as our vote, don't limit it to just Saturday. Well, she decides on Wednesday nights to.
Yeah, I mean, she did indicate on her application that she would be looking at Saturdays, but she did apply for a weekly entertainment license, so you are correct. If you wanted to make a motion for a weekly entertainment license to be granted to her, you could certainly do that. This is what I think she's identifying. Since our last meeting, I know that she's also talking about extending her hours that she's open at 57 Park, and hopefully going to 7 days a week, but she's still thinking through that process. So you might be correct in your assumption that she might end up doing entertainment on other days.
I would also recommend a firm start and end date. She only says summer. I would recommend that it be the traditional definition of summer, which is any time from now, I guess you could say, but have a firm end date.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's open-ended and due to interpretation is what the definition of summer is.
Yeah, but the weekly license is for the year.
It is, and she, yeah,
Then you're covered.
yeah.
I'll make a motion, the board approve a weekly entertainment license application for Leah King at 57 Park Street.
I have a motion by Member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Rosenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or an abstention? That is unanimous. So in front of us, we do have a Sunday entertainment license for the Adams Theater, located, I believe, at 27 Park Street. That's correct. And on the application that is in front of you, there are 3 dates that Ina Moore has identified as definite Sundays that she will be hosting entertainment at the theater. But this would grant her the ability to have Sunday entertainment for the remainder of the year, which she is identifying at least 3 dates.
I'm sorry, that's
Oh.
actually not correct.
Is this for the 3 dates only?
That is for those 3 dates only. There are 2 options. You can pay per event, or you can pay annually. She chose to pay for 3 events.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, sorry.
Nope, that's okay. I should have seen it in the top corner. But thank you. So the motion then should be, if the board wants to go forward with this approval, it should indicate for the 3 dates that are being requested.
I'll make a motion, the board approve a Sunday entertainment license to Adams Theater LLC at 27 Park Street for the dates of June 4th, 2023, July 2nd, 2023, October 8th, 2023, after 1 p.m.
Okay, I have a motion by member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or abstention? All right, excellent, that's unanimous. And we do have a 1-day liquor license for Berkshire Cider Project to pour on Friday, June 2nd at the Adams Theater for a live performance that is happening there. So you'll see, I know that Catherine was not able to attend this evening, but you'll see her application is here in full. And I believe everything else is all set.
Yeah, we've done 1-day liquor licenses before for Berkshire Cider Project, so this should not be an unknown vendor. They were at Thunderfest, and all of their paperwork is in order.
Just out of curiosity, through the chair, is cider a liquor, considered a liquor?
It is a hard cider.
Yeah, okay,
So
it's a
yes.
hard cider, okay, yep.
It's actually a really great spot. They try to locally source their apples.
Yep.
And press them in North Adams to make cider. It's on the drier side, but it's kind of an interesting story that they have, if you haven't been there. What's that?
Can you notice how?
I have met with them several times. Yep. They give tours and they ask for apples every year. What is the board's pleasure?
Just,
Oh,
what were the
sure.
times?
So this is going to be for Friday, June 2nd. It's, the performance is 7:30 PM. I think the request was a little bit earlier than that. I don't have the event information.
6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m.
6:30 to 10, thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion, the board approve the 1-day wine and malt license application for Catherine Hand to take place at the Adams Theater, 27 Park Street, on Friday, June 2nd, from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m.
I have a motion by member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Rosenberg. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I want to make an observation that with this preceding entertainment and liquor licenses, we're bringing a lot of life and activity to Park Street now in the evenings and in the daytime. So this is a very positive trend because as we bring more traffic down there, business thrives and it becomes more of a destination for the public. So I just want to acknowledge that point and support this vigorously.
Madam Chair, I have a question. So every time that the Adams Theater wants to host a event and alcohol will be served at that event, they need to come to the board for a one-day liquor license. And is that because, I think I know the answer, is that because they do not have a malt and liquor license?
That is correct.
Okay.
And they have to watch it too, because you're only allowed so many one-day licenses, I believe.
Although the license is not to the theater, it is the license is being granted to the individuals who are pouring. So
Right.
it's why you'll see a variety of, I guess, vendors who will be doing the pouring.
And this is a good way to do this, but do we have any extra malt and liquor licenses? in
We-
the town?
We do, and the Adams Theater had initially come to the board for a license last year, was not able to use it because they were not in operation, and opted not to go forward with a full license for this year because they will not be fully operational, doing a couple of shows here and there. I know that the theater's been working very closely with town staff, and inspectional services to make sure that every single event is in compliance with all of the rules and regulations. So I know that Bree gets a lot of the license applications for each one of those events. Did you want to
Yeah,
have your
just
hand
to
up?
add a tiny bit, so when it came time for license renewals, the theater is not able to renew because part of that renewal process is an inspection, but they are not ready to be inspected because they're still under construction, and because their license was never fully issued, you can't renew something that was never issued. So it will require an application for a new license when they are ready for a final inspection and ready to get the license at that point in time.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be at these events. I'm all for it. Just questions.
Yeah, so this was sort of
Good
how can we
questions.
make sure that we're still keeping these fun events, local vendors moving forward? Yeah.
We've had a lot of licensing and permitting conversations with her, trying to accommodate her in the fact that she is under construction. The events are certainly safe, but each one just has to be taken individually. As she gets ramped up and as things get completed at that, we're really hoping to be able, I think, John, to your point, to kind of streamline, that process for her. But really, at the end of the day, it's up to her as the applicant as to how she wants to go about doing it. And I think there's ways to do that down the road. And I know that she's expressed to me she wants some operational knowledge and experience to determine how she wants to go moving forward. She's definitely on top of it.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Or an abstention? That's unanimous. And then we're going to have another one-day license for an event at the Adams Theater for the same weekend. This one is for Saturday, June 3rd. And the one-day license is for David Nicholas, Nicholas Enterprises, for the event, and it looks like it is June 3rd from 4 PM to 10 PM. And this one is a comedy show.
I'll make a motion the board approve a one-day wine and malt license to David Nicholas to be served at Adams Theater, 27 Park Street on June 3rd from 4 PM to 10 PM.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Any discussion?
I would just like to make a comment. Any chance I get to thank Ina Moore for what she's doing in this community, I take advantage of it. I go in there quite often, and she's putting her heart and her soul into this project. And while everybody who's watching this show, please feel free to, go down and look at what's going on. Not just the building itself, but on the windows, there's going to be programs, as Member Duval just said. He'll be going to the shows. I plan on going to the shows, and the more people that can go to these shows and show interest will be helpful for the community and also for the hard work that Ina's putting forward for our community. So please take a look at the offerings for this season and pick one that you like, and there's certainly a cadre of different events, so it should be a liking for somebody in one of the ones that will be taking place.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or an abstention? All right, that is unanimous. That brings us to item K under new business, and it is about the transfer station rates for 2023 to 2024, and I will turn things over to the town administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we get into the rates and while you're assembling your materials to follow along tonight, I just wanted to pass along some information to the board as well as the public in terms of what will be used this year for a physical permit. It is a residential transfer station, and we issue permits for use. It's not an automatic use if you're a resident. You have to pay in order to use the facility, or pay as you throw. And one of the pieces of feedback that we received from one of our new transfer station tenants, who's unfortunately no longer with us, was that there was a lot of users of the transfer station who were not affixing the permit or the sticker to their vehicle. When the attendant would approach somebody and say, do you have a permit to use the facility, may I see it? The response was, well, I have one, but it's not on my car. And the ensuing question was, well, the regulation is it has to be on the car. And folks said they just didn't want to attach it to their vehicle. So taking that feedback, staff began to research an opportunity for something else. And the solution that was come up is this year we're going to try a rear view mirror. Peter, if you want to, I can be Vanna White for a second. Will be a review.
Our younger audience won't understand.
Somebody's chuckling in the back. Yeah, that's true. That's kind of aging myself.
Yes.
Will be a rear view mirror hanger, which should be, you can take it, put it in your glove box, put it on, Tammy, I'll demonstrate that for you too. You can put it in your glove box, put it in your console. It stays in your car, but you don't have to put it on the window. You don't have to worry about the tinting, etc. However, it has to be displayed, and that's simply so that the transfer station attendant can make an identification, essentially two things. One, you have a permit, and two, it's valid. And it's for your vehicle so that you paid to use the facility. I think it's worth, I'll pass this around to the board, we have different color options for each year, and on it will be the license number of the car, the make and model, and the vehicle color, along with a permit number as well. So I'll pass that along for the board to see. The idea is, as a reminder, the folks who use the transfer station pay for the removal of the material from the facility, and folks in Adams who may not use the facility, there is a portion of that facility subsidized by your real estate tax. So the idea of the permit fee and having it checked by the attendant is to ensure that people from Adams are actually using the facility who have paid for the permit. That is the point. It is not there for aggravation purposes or to annoy people, and the attendant really doesn't want to have to do it. So we're really hoping, and at this point, it's going to be easy to hang on the rearview mirror, very visible, and easy to update and be able to just quickly check and make sure that everyone's permitted to use the facility. So that's one of the changes for this year. We're updating the form. The form that is issued by Ms. Rice and Ms. Sacco in the Treasurer Collector's Office will be updated as well, and folks will be given a copy of that now. In years past, we haven't given them a copy, but with that will be some of the rules and regulations, request to be courteous, etc. Keep people informed. We also put on it this year the web links to Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District. I should remind folks, we have both of our commissioners from Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District here with us tonight, Ed Driscoll and John Pitroff. We thank you both for being here tonight. Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District offers a lot of programming that frankly is not on the back of the town to do. So with that permit, in addition to being able to deposit your municipal solid waste and your recycling, we offer tires, we offer scrap metal, hazmat collections, etc. So we really do offer a lot of bang for the buck. Now with that stump speech, we have to take on the more challenging conversation as to what should the fees be for this fiscal year. I'm going to go through just the bullet points of a memorandum that I put together for the board that they've had since last week to review and digest the material, and I hope it's clear so that everybody understands what we're proposing and really what the economics or the finances are of operating a municipal transfer station. The current transfer station fees were set in June of 2020. They increased from a then permit fee of $50 and a $1 bag tag to the now current $75 annual permit and $6 for 5 bag tags or $1.20 each. I will use the individual bag tag number going forward, $1.20 each, and then the $75 permit fee. We also instituted a $10 additional or replacement permit. We had also received some feedback that folks use multiple cars. They may not always use the same car. Again, the sticker is, on one car, that car may be in the shop, so we wanted to be flexible. We offer and will continue to offer the acquisition of a second permit for your second vehicle at only $10 as well. And I should remind folks, I didn't put this in the memo because the board should be aware of this, but for the public, there are 2 ways to fund the transfer station. The first one is the transfer station revolving fund. Money comes in from using the transfer station, money comes out of that account and pays for it. If you use it, you pay for it. What you'll hear about tonight is the reason why we propose we try to not do it every year, but we may need to, is because the transfer station is still subsidized by a certain amount of money in our budget. We budget for about $25,000 in the transfer station budget to remove waste. If the revolving fund cannot support the functions of the facility, we go into that budget item number. Right now, we've only gone into it about $8,000 to $10,000. The idea is if we can get a good balance of users with a reasonable permit fee, it will pay for itself, and we'll never have to use that budget line item, and it comes off the tax rate. We may always have to leave some on, but our goal is to get that $25,000 number down. The total budget, as you can see, is $65,000 annual with that $25,000 budgeted for overflow removal fees. So going through bullet by bullet item, current fees were set in June of 2020. We haven't raised them in 3 years. The total cost of facility operation in terms of material removal is approximately $75,000, and that's less than Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District appropriation that we have to pay to be a member and access their programming of about $25,000. The operation does not pay for itself. Material removal is the largest expense of that facility. The average annual material removal cost is approximately $65,000. Now, that is set by the Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District contract, that it's all 13 communities. 13 communities participate, and that contract is with Casella Waste Removal. There is a certain fee to haul the containers out, and then there is a certain fee per ton of item when they get weighed to the disposal facility. That is what we pay for. That is approximately $65,000. The more people who use the facility, the more people who deposit waste, that number goes up because we're pulling out more containers and we're processing more material. Fewer people who use the facility, that number drops. So it's a very fluid number, and it's hard to predict how many users we'll have or how much material we'll be removing from the facility. But on average, it's approximately $65,000 worth of removal. The average revolving fund deficit, as I said, it doesn't fully pay for itself, right now is approximately $8,000. It wasn't always that way. When we first went up to $75, it almost paid for itself. Deficit may have been $2,000 or $3,000. We were close, but we chose not to go up over that 3-year period. So now the deficit is starting to grow a little bit more because the costs are going up to remove the material. The Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District we're entering into year 4 of a 5-year contract. They worked very hard in 2020 to renew that contract. The removal rates may increase each year. As Ed and I were speaking about before, it doesn't mean Casella will raise them, but we won't know that until sometime in June, and we need to be prepared in case it does. The language in the contract says that they may increase by 5.4%, currently from $102.24 per ton. That percentage is essentially based on what the consumer price index is at the time. That isn't an easy formula to predict, because in addition to trying to predict if they are going to go up, you also have to predict what you think your annual tonnage is going to be, and that number fluctuates based on usage. So our current user fees is $75 for an annual permit, $10 for an additional replacement permit, and $6 for 5 bag tags, or at $1.20 each. For fiscal year 2023, starting last July and ending this June 30th, well, year to date, I should say, we've sold 590 user permits and 77 additional or replacement permits. That selling of the permits generated $44,250 and $770 respectively. For fiscal year '23 to date, we've sold 10,635 individual bag tags, and that raised $12,762, for a total permit and bag tag revenue for fiscal year '23 to date of $57,782. What we are recommending the board consider tonight is an increase to the annual permit fee from $75 to $100 annual permit, keep the $10 additional replacement fee for a second permit, an increase from $1.20 to $1.60 each, or from $6 to $8, $2 increase, and still for the 5 bag tags. When you buy the annual permit, whatever fee that may be, you'll still get a sheet of bag tags, which are 5 with the purchase of an annual permit. In order to come to this number, Crystal and I used the following data. If the number of users of the facility remain the same, that would be 590, and that's what we hope for, in fact, if not more, the projected revenue would be approximately $59,770 in permit fees and $17,016 in bag tags, or a combined total of revenue of $76,786 versus this year's $57,782. So we're looking to raise almost an additional $20,000 with this fee increase. Assuming 2 bags are used a week by a user and 1 permit purchased, average yearly cost to a homeowner here in Adams is approximately $266, which we believe is less than an average curbside hauler fees. Depending upon which company, it's approximately $350, $400, or $600 for a curbside pickup in town. Other communities' permit fees, and that material was provided to you as well, range anywhere from $100 a year to $350 a year, or anywhere minimum of $1.50 for a bag tag plus some. So you can see in that data. So for example, and I just want to also point out too, a lot of folks mention North Adams Transfer Station to me, but keep in mind that North Adams facility is a commercial accepting facility. So North Adams has the ability, and having worked in North Adams, they subsidize the residential costs with the commercial fees. We are not a commercial facility. We do not accept commercial waste. We only accept residential waste. So the cost of that facility is fully on the users and taxpayers in Adams. Cheshire is $150. They include 50 bag tags with that. This was as of November of 2022, and we researched it. Dalton is $119. Lee Lennox do not have a facility. And Great Barrington is $350 as well. So you can see that it varies across the community. You'll see also in your materials the revenue that we generate. This just is an example so you can see the data, the raw data. The revenue comes in from the revolving fund. In addition to the permit fees, what you'll see in there is Sayers Recycling. In there, that is the money that comes in when we empty that scrap container. And technically, if somebody goes up there and just wants to deposit scrap into the container and they don't have a permit, the attendant lets them do that because we get money for that scrap metal anyway. So that is a freebie for a resident. We only do that because we get paid for that material. We don't haul that material out and have to pay. That's the only distinction. So you'll see Sayers Recycling, that's what that is. The tire fees, if you remember several months ago, we increased those tire fees. Those fees pay for the tire removal cost, plus a little bit in order to recover some of the cost of doing that as well. The clothing recycling, you'll see on page 3 of the revolving account, we received a first check from CMRK for $52.64. Linda, who's monitoring that program for us, it's been so successful. Adams has been quite a generator in the textile collection that we've added a 3rd container. There's no cost to the town to do it. We put it at the Memorial Building, right in the U-shaped driveway. That way there, it's right on the main drag, it's visible, it's easy for people to get to. The second one is by the town sand pile on near Crotto Street in the DPW garage, and the third one is at the transfer station. So if you choose not to buy a transfer station permit, and you choose to use curbside recycling or other disposal, hopefully not to Jay's point on the side of the road, you can still deposit textiles and comply with the waistband without any cost to you here in Adams. So that's the one sheet you have, and as you can see, total revenue so far was at $58,260. The expenses on the revolving fund, you can see where we pay for that. Most of that is all of the removal costs, as well as the portable restroom up at the facility as well, and our total expenses were $56,587,000 to date when this was printed up. So you can see that right now, if you just look alone at expenses and revenue out of the transfer station account, it's only a $2,000 margin of us before we have to dip further elsewhere. So that's one of the reasons why at this point we're predicting the need to raise the permit fees this year. The other additional items, you have the budget. You see what the budget is used for transfer station, repairs and maintenance, rental lease for the compactor, $1,800. The other line item is $500 for repairs and maintenance. The $25,000 line item you see there for rental lease refuse, that's the backup item in order to pay for the material withdrawal. Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District is $26,000. And the engineering fee there is for compliance paperwork, and we use tie and bond for that work. You'll see the budget detail sheet also in this packet as well. And you'll see the transfer station attendant payroll at $16 an hour. Payroll is about $7,800, give or take, for that, with only one person working the hours that we have now. We'd love to be able to maybe expand more hours at the station so it's more flexible for people. That would hopefully maybe drive up the permit sales, but it also requires us to pay the attendant to work the facility. So that's the data you have. Ed and John are here if you have any questions about the contract. We've chatted with Linda a little bit about it. Can we tell you that what Casella is going to do this year? No, we can't. But I already can, tell you we do have a slight deficit already, so we are looking for a permit fee increase. That's my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. Crystal is here specifically to go over any of the data with you. Whatever we can do to help you inform your decision.
Thank you. Just a clarifying question. The transfer station attendant payroll, that's not part of the expenses that you, like the total here for the revolving fund of the 56,000, right? So that additional 7,800 would be on top of this 56
Yes,
for total expenses.
right. We just started paying the transfer station attendant out of the revolving fund this year.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. Okay. Any questions for the town administrator?
I have a question for Mr. Driscoll.
Oh, yep.
We tried, Ed, sorry.
That's okay. Welcome, Ed.
Thank you. Ed Driscoll, 195 East Road.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the largest expenses, or the largest expense, is the removal of the solid waste.
Yes.
And so Casella can renegotiate the contract based on their costs.
They have a contract that lasts for a certain amount of years, and each one of those years has an escalation clause in it, yeah.
Okay, so their cost, I imagine one of their major costs is the cost of them disposing it into landfills, correct?
I think their major costs are probably transportation and the paying of their employees.
Okay.
I'll tell you, everything is really up in the air right now, because with Vicon closing, that becoming a transfer station and not being a burn facility anymore.
And that's where Casella was taking all that?
Some of it goes to Vermont.
Okay.
It's sort of in flux right now. So I think that the numbers that Jay put out, even if Casella doesn't go up this year as much as Jay is anticipating, they're going to get it next year. So rather than, go up, let's say don't go up this year and go up a real lot next year, I think you're better off, even if Casella doesn't come through with a major increase. I think his numbers, we have to look at it more than just 1 year at a time.
Right. But I'm looking at the actual cost of Casella's costs going up, and you said one of their disposal areas is no longer taking it, right?
Right. It still goes there, but then it gets transferred to another
But
location.
that means the costs are going up.
Yeah, most likely.
Okay.
The problem is volume. The town of Adams doesn't generate very much enough recyclables to make it a marketable commodity for somebody.
Okay.
We don't generate enough MSW to make it worthwhile to where we would have enough people coming in and using the landfill that it would pay for itself. So with the solid waste district, we're able to spread it out a little bit more. And, ideally, even if you took all of Berkshire County, we still don't generate that much trash compared to other communities, in the area. So it's always going to be either just on a good year, break even. And on a bad year, we'll have to dip into that fund.
Okay.
For some of the tonnage information, as Ed said, I asked the DPW admin assistant to pull this data today for information. For paper tonnage, July of last year, all the way through April of this year, we've generated 64.10 tons of paper. Commingle, which is your cans, bottles, and glass, 40.10 tons. And municipal solid waste tonnage, 120.1 tons. That costs us $29,750 to remove the essentially 100 and something tons of recycling, and $24,000 to remove that 120 tons. So when you add that, that comes up to that, close to that $65,000 number. You add the transfer station attendant fees and some of the other stuff, and that's where you get that $65,000 to $75,000 number.
Right.
The entire operation, I would say, when Crystal and I looked at it, if you added in the Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District fee, it's fair to say that the transfer station and waste removal operations of the town is about $100,000 a year. And we've only been bringing in just under $60,000 using the transfer station permit fees as our primary revenue generator. And as Ed said, our goal isn't to make money on the facility, it's simply to pay for it, pay for the costs.
If you go back, and I don't want to sound like an old codger here, but I was appointed by the board to be the solid waste commissioner in 1992. At that time, if we brought in a whole bunch of paper, it was then sold to a de-inking facility, it was used as pulp in another paper mill. I'll just use paper for example. Then we would get a check. The town of Adams would get a check from the MRF, which is the Materials Recycling Facility. So I would come to the Board of Selectmen twice a year and give you a check of between $4,000 and $8,000. Well, Governor Romney, or Senator Romney, whatever the hell he is, he took the money away from us. Just reached out and took it. So recycling used to be not necessarily a loser like it is now, but there was at least some recoup of the money. It would be nice if we could be able to recoup the money that goes in, but there again, we don't generate enough to be a marketable commodity for any industry to use either the cans or the plastic or the glass. We researched last year a glass project. We were all excited about it because it was going to be used for sand for septic systems. We found out that we didn't generate enough to run their machine for 1 day a year. Even if you put all of Berkshire County in, we couldn't generate enough to run their machine for a month. So it's volume again.
So we don't, how much do we earn a year from selling recyclables?
Nothing.
Nothing. That's what you're saying. We lose
There's
money.
no money that comes in from any of that material. There's a provision in the contract that if the market shifted, we would. The market is nowhere near there.
And do we still have to pay haulage fees for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Every material that goes into that facility the only material that remains on town property is brush. And that's a separate conversation for that and yard waste. But the brush has to be a separate conversation. The paper is removed, the trash compactor is emptied and removed, and the commingle is removed, the tires are removed, and we get paid for the scrap metal when that's removed. That's the only product up there that actually generates revenue, and that's well less than $1,000 a year. And the tires simply pay for themselves, maybe plus $1.
And the premise in 1986, when this was set up, was that recycling would be free.
Right.
And you pay to throw away your rubbish. So that would give incentive to the homeowners to split it up and, but since, I don't remember what year it was that we lost that money, so we're trying to run this on the premise that's not even accurate anymore, if you know what I mean.
But now that we have composting, I must divert some out of the waste stream and keep it local. Is there?
John.
I think he set that up for you, John.
And if you could introduce yourself.
I'm John Pitroff. I'm the alternate commissioner for the Berkshire Solid Waste Management District and the owner of Second Chance Composting. So, in Adams, we have a few customers, but we're still not at the level where we're moving a lot of material. I mean, it's a little bit, but just starting the business in Adams, I think, when was it, that really cold day in December, January, whatever it was. That was when we officially came to town. So we're getting more customers as we go, but it's not really a substantial amount of material
But looking at the potential, what do you say, 106 tons what did we haul out of solid waste last year?
In tonnage?
Tons, yeah.
To date, fiscal year to date, 120.
Okay.
120 tons of
So
solid
we're
waste.
talking roughly 250 tons a year? Double that, or?
Well, the monthly average is 13, 12, 17, 10, 12, 18,
Okay.
12, 10, 10 tons.
So
per
what
month.
percentage of food waste is in our total? I mean, your best professional estimate.
It's high in the, I think it's as much as like 60% of trash is
It's
food waste. I
food.
mean, I have to get a more accurate number, that's off the top
Okay,
of
I'm
my
just saying,
head,
so it's
but
over half.
It's high.
So you mean if we had a full-blown composting program, we could divert 50% of the solid waste, which we're paying money to get rid of? Is that what we're saying? I mean, is that,
I don't know what the tonnage of food waste is in 120 tons.
but John's saying estimated over 50%.
I'd have to look, double check it, but
Okay.
it's very high.
This is a big number.
Yeah, it's high, it's like something like that.
Okay.
I wish I knew off the top of my head, but it's
All
in
right.
that range where the percentage is quite high of the, someone's home trash being food waste.
You'd also, with the textile diversion, to your point, Howard, too, if we were able to do that, we would be diverting the food waste out of the solid waste stream.
Exactly.
And you're diverting now
And creating
the
a-
textiles out.
And we have enough scale to have profit-making from that composting because it's it's very local, as opposed to the paper, which has to be shipped all over the place and processed other places. So,
I don't think so. I don't think we generated, I don't think we ever.
I'm
had
talking
a
about the
problem.
compost.
I know.
If we potentially develop that, and maybe throw some investment dollars in there. But I guess what I'd like,
We need to take this discussion further, because we need to also look into composting the sludge from the wastewater plant. If we could combine both of those two things together, it would be tremendously significant to the savings to the town.
all right, so, for a future, I think we should have a workshop on this.
Yeah, I'd like to get a little bit more solid numbers for you on it. Like I'm saying, I'm just going off the top of my head from research in the past, but.
So that's 50% of the cost of that. I mean, that we could divert it actually making money from.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it takes an entire infrastructure in the
So-
facility,
Right.
the permitting, it's
But if-
just so different
but
to
if
be
you
able
could-
to do it.
Present to us at a workshop
Right.
what a scenario would be for us to process that volume of compost to divert it out of the solid waste stream as a starting point.
Yeah, if I could add, it's got to be a societal change when it comes to that type of thing. I know up the high school, they have kids, as the kids bring up their lunch and there's food in it, they bring it in there. Lindsay McGinnis is doing composting up at the school. To what extent, I don't know, but it's something that needs to be societal in time in order for it to really work, because, picking and choosing, it's got to be something that there's a place for them to get rid of it, because you can't keep your waste food around too long, because, there's problems with that. So that's a tough one. I think with recycling, particularly in plastics, when China decided not to take any more plastic, that really put a big damper on plastic. But what I read now is they're finding so many reuses of plastic, and what they are and how they do it, the polymers, I really don't know. But as you've mentioned, we don't get anything for recycling, and way back, that was the big thing, recycle, and now it's almost become too popular, which is always a good thing, but it's just difficult to,
Our shipping nightmare.
Yeah.
Because they're shipping air, basically.
yeah, right, yeah. But look what's happening in our oceans and everywhere else. I mean, plastic is, there's miles and miles and sheens of plastic, and it just doesn't break down. So, once again, something has to be done, but boy, it's just tough. It's just tough to try to get it all together to make it work.
The only other comment that I have,
Yeah.
and like I said, I was doing this since '92, I would encourage you guys to support the numbers that Jay gave you tonight.
Yeah.
Because even if it's a little bit more than we're gonna need this year, they're gonna really stick it to us next year.
Yeah.
So that would be my philosophy.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
and it would also, thank you, Ed, and John, it would also just forestall perhaps an increase next year, as well.
One more thing, if you don't mind. I'd like to plug on June 24th, the household bulky waste collection up at the landfill. You can bring anything there, like, for anything, from the kitchen sink. You can't bring a mattress this year. Now, I'm sure you're gonna get questions about, what are we gonna do with mattresses? Well, we're almost 90% of the way to having a solution that will allow only other towns is gonna be the spearhead on it. So, no mattresses, but by July 1st, we'll have an idea where the mattresses are gonna go. And this is June 24th, up at the landfill, and you can get rid of anything from like old propane, old lawnmowers, not chemicals, we had that one a month ago, but I just wanted to plug that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Jay, just real quick, I looked up and it's estimated that 70 to 75% of MSW waste is compostable.
Wow, yeah, that's a high number.
Can I make one more point to Joe's point about the societal change? That's one thing that we're trying to do, but the Mass DEP is really working on that. November 1st of last year, they put into effect the half a ton. If you produce half a ton of food waste material a week, you can't throw it in the landfill. You have to do something else with it. And I'm on all the Mass DEP meetings. They're trying to find the next step in that solution. By 2030, they have a zero waste goal. So currently, our customers right now are voluntary. They are doing it because they want to do it and they feel it's the right thing to do. But that time is coming. The Mass DEP is looking for the next step. I know that Vermont had a system already that worked. They basically well, in 2014, Massachusetts was at, if you produced a ton, you couldn't throw away anything above that. And then this year, they went to half a ton. Vermont did the same thing. They went from a ton to a half a ton. Then they waited one more year, and they went to a third of a ton. I'm hopeful that Massachusetts follows that. And then Vermont waited 3 years to build infrastructure. It might be different because we have bigger cities, especially on the other side of the state, but they waited 3 years, and then they made it illegal to throw away food scraps in the trash at home level. So yes, it's something that we need education and the public to be involved in and learn about. That's why one of the reasons I started the business. However, it's going to become something sooner than later that is going to be enforced. I don't know if we'll get to that level. I'm hopeful we are, because it's a lot of waste that isn't really waste. But, I mean, 2030 is the goal, and that's right around the corner. So that's coming, and that education and that awareness, like, locally. So just to your point of that.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
One of the things that we're talking about, John and Ed are a part of this, is the town had a solid waste advisory committee set up several years ago. It was an ad hoc committee. It was designed to look at very targeted, specific issues for the town and meet as needed. One of those items was what to do with the solid sludge waste coming out of the wastewater treatment plant. That is the #1 operational expense over at the plant, other than chemicals and labor, of course. So that's something that the group looked at. We're at the point, based on the conversation tonight, that it's time to get that group up and running and be an advisory panel for myself and staff to be able to have this conversation and address these issues, because we don't know for how long. You know, in 2025, when Casella comes back to renegotiate this contract, we don't know what the economics are going to do. We're trying, as we said, to maintain a transfer station and keep it affordable for folks rather than going to the curbside service. That's one of our goals. So we have a few ideas to do that on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. You'll see that those committee appointments come to you before June. We don't know yet. We think most people want to serve again that were on there before. So myself and the town clerk are looking at that and going to try to reassemble it. And they'll be taking on those conversations, Howard.
Very good.
And be presenting to the board.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And Ed and John, thank you so much for being here and for also serving as our district representatives. I think that we're in good hands, and I appreciate you guys coming here and sharing your knowledge with us and your opinion as we have to address the rates for next year. So thank you. Ed's anxious to leave, so yeah.
Just request a brief recess.
Okay, a recess requested, so yes, a recess can be granted for 5 minutes. Yep. All right. All right, so we are back in session. Thank you for the recess. So in front of the board this evening is to set the transfer station rates for fiscal year 24, so starting on July 1. We've received a presentation from the town administrator, some information from our representatives from the Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District, with the recommended fee adjustment, which is in the memo that is in front of the board, of moving from $75 to $100 for the annual permit, remaining with the $10 additional or replacement permit, and then going from $6 for 5 bag tags to $8 for 5 bag tags, which would mean going from $1.20 each to $1.60 each. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the annual permit would, it currently includes 5 bag tags, and the recommendation would be to have the $100 annual permit with the 5 bag tags at the time of purchase. Ms. Rice is nodding her head yes, and I think is grateful that I added that piece in. Okay. I think that is the recommendation that is coming from staff, but this is a board decision, so I open it up to the board for any discussion or for a motion. Yes, or questions?
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody, years back, the board was faced with a problem. Do we eliminate the transfer station? Because at the time, the expense was all borne in the budget. And it was decided, well, let's try this fee structure to make it revenue neutral, basically taking it out of our budget. And I think it's worked well so far. And so I would have to say I'm going to be in favor of the increase. Not that I like, believe me, not that I like increases, but to keep the users paying as opposed to the people who are not using the facility from paying. So with that, I'll make a motion that the board set the transfer station user fees at $100 annual permit, $10 additional / replacement permit, and $8 for 5 bags, or $1.60 each.
Okay, I have a motion by member Blanchard. Did you want to add in the 5 bag tags at the time of that's included in the annual permit?
Yeah, that's not really the fee, that's, I thought,
Yeah.
set policy.
Okay,
Yeah, that's just what we do,
okay,
and we'll
okay.
continue to do it.
Okay, I just didn't know if it needed to be specified, that's all. Okay,
No matter what you may vote on for a fee, we will continue to offer, when you buy your annual permit, at whatever cost, you will get 5 bag
Okay.
tags with that.
got it. Annual permit will include 5 bag tags, got it. So I have a motion by member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Second by Vice Chair Rosenberg. Any discussion?
Yes, I would just like to make a few quick comments. I believe that we need to go with what we've been recommended to us. My big worry is that when it comes time for a contract renewal, that Casella pretty much has a monopoly on solid waste here in the community. Matter of fact, they do have a monopoly. And I didn't understand, if I could get some clarification, when Ed was standing in front of us. So each year, within the 5-year contract, they're able to up and...
Yes.
Yeah, so and what standards are needed for them to raise it? What do they have to prove to us or anybody that's using their services?
They don't have to prove anything based on the language in the contract. They simply say on here, on each anniversary of the contract, which would be July 1, 2023, there will be a CPI increase. CPI is Consumer Price Index. Garbage and trash collection index, so there's There's that within the master CPIs, assessed to their per pull transportation. So that's just taking the container out. That's a flat, at the time that this was written, it's 97 a ton. I think today it's a little over $100. And then on top of that, I'm sorry, it's per tonnage, and then the per pull is $365. So we're paying over $365 right now just to have the truck come and swap out the containers. That's flat. That will go up too, could go up. And then the per ton fee, per material, also can go up. They didn't do that in 2021. As Ed said, they did it in 2022. Based on correspondence that Linda has had, Linda Cernick, NBSW Director, they are anticipating, or at least wanted to go up in March of this year, and Linda pushed back saying, you can't, you can only go up on the anniversary of the contract. So that spared us 4 months of an increase. So we are anticipating them to come back sometime in June to tell us effective July 1, when our new permit fees go into effect, everything after July 1 may increase. And that's why it's hard, as Ed was also trying to say, it's hard for us to really pinpoint what that's going to be.
So they can do that just arbitrarily, and you can't, they don't have to go in front of anybody and say, well, our costs are going up because gas is more expensive, so.
No, Linda can certainly ask.
You said
for that.
CPI. It's tied to the CPI.
Right, yeah, but I'm also wondering now, if that's the case, they can go, now it's the consumer price index, right? So now the consumer price index is either, who sets the who sets that?
That's a good, I don't know. I mean, that's a national,
Yeah, right.
national standard.
Yeah. So, in other words, they can tell us what we don't want to hear, but we don't have any means to.
Not really.
It doesn't really
No.
strike me as a fair process, but what is?
I can tell you some of the language from Linda's conversation is there was no CPI index increase until July 1, 2022.
Yeah.
And at that rate, the hauling went to 384.71 per, so that's the flat rate that comes out. So it went from
Right.
365 to 384. And then Linda in Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District and other regional solid waste districts were successful in arguing at the Superior Court level that those haulage fees did not have to follow prevailing wage.
Okay.
For those of you who are watching at home and maybe starting to gloss over, everything we do as a municipality has to be prevailing wage, which makes things expensive, unfortunately. That's always the fair wage, but it costs the public more to do the work. When this contract was drafted in 2020, prevailing wage was included in it. Those consortium of districts, Franklin County, I believe Hampshire, and Berkshire, successfully. So that number reduced from 384 down to 368. But it's still going to, that was a win, but that's over with now. It's still going to go up. The distance is also, like, for example, they were proposing in March of this year that anything going to the Pittsfield facility, as Ed said, the former Vicon facility, was $120 per ton rather than 97 that we were paying in 2020. And anything going to a Pownell, Vermont facility was going to go up to $115, per ton. And generally speaking, we send ours to Pittsfield. So that was going to be actually more than going to Pownell. So those are the variables that we're trying to pinpoint and give us some room, is to not go up more than what we really need to go up. But we can't predict right now what they're going to tell us.
Yeah, and just quickly, I was surprised when Ed said that it still goes to Pittsfield, but then it's taken away to somewhere else. So us being delivered to Pittsfield, we have to pay almost twice, in other words, because it goes to Pittsfield and then who knows where it goes next.
Right, and that's, as to your point earlier, Joe, too, when we hit 2025 and this contract gets renewed, they'll take that into consideration.
Yeah.
So it's just the economics of municipal waste. That's why some communities don't do it.
Right.
It's on the private sector. If you don't have a facility like we have, you have to pay the private sector to come. Pittsfield, to my knowledge, is the only municipality that offers municipal curbside pickup that's rolled into the real estate tax. Adams has a transfer station, other communities have a transfer station. And as I said with North Adams, they're a large enough facility that they can handle commercial waste. So they're able to subsidize essentially the residential costs by being able to bring in large volumes of commercial. We don't have that ability. We're a small residential facility. So we have to take all that into consideration. It's a unique operation that we do our best with to make it economical.
Our town accountant had a hand raised.
Oh, please.
To answer Member Novak's question, the Bureau of Labor Statistics sets the consumer price index, and it's calculated based on a month-to-month index of the average cost of goods and services.
That Department of Commerce? Is that with the Department of Commerce?
Yeah.
Bureau?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, one other point. Looking forward, there's two major things that are going to continue to happen. One is the price of diesel fuel, which these trucks burn, is going to go up. The second thing that's going to happen is that the distance being hauled is going to go greater because more and more landfills are closing because they're at capacity. And it's a national crisis. So we, as a town, if we really want to look after our interests, we have to look at reducing the amount of waste we send to landfills. And if I'm hearing that composting is half of it, that's a strategic necessity for our town then, is to divert that. Okay, because the cost will only go up, and the rate of increase will start to go up faster as these landfills close down.
And Howard, on that note, I'm just going to divert a little bit too, so that people understand what the role of the attendant is at the facility.
Okay?
We already talked about making sure people have a permit. The attendant has to look, make sure the permit is there and the person's authorized to use the facility. But in addition to that, and arguably so, probably the more important task of the attendant is to enforce the waste ban. When you drive into the facility, we have the big board there. We're required to do that. That's not an art project. We have to do that so people know what they can and cannot dispose at the facility.
Right.
We don't have the option to be able to tear open those bags, put them on a tipping floor, and inspect them for waste ban compliance. Technically speaking, if we open those bags and we discovered something in there that shouldn't be in the waste stream, we could get penalized for it, and we have to reject what's called reject the load. There's even provisions in the contract that if that happens to any of our loads, they know where it comes from. If Casella gets rejected, that comes back to the town of Adams. So, when the attendant is up there, it's not just up there to annoy people. It's there to enforce some of these rules and regulations because we could be penalized and cost us more if not. The container, we get called to haul out. So the attendant wants to pack that container as much as possible. That's why the cardboard has to be flat, and you can't just throw it in there in a box. There's a reason why the attendant asks you, can you please fold it up and put it in there? Again, not to aggravate the person, but because it costs money every time the container's full. So we want max capacity and yank it. Otherwise, we're sending out empty containers. So there's a reason, for that. Why we have the compactor. Compactor continues to compact that trash as much as possible. It's effective, and we're able to haul more out with a less of a pull.
Right. Okay.
So if we ever wanted to do that, really check diversion, we might have to go to something like clear bags, probably have to have a second person up there and offer more hours so that there's less traffic backed up so that the attendant can do more of that. So that's just a reality of when we try to divert.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Other questions or comments?
Just another quick comment, not to belabor this much longer, but we found that when we had that attendant that no one liked because he was doing his job, and because he did a good job at what he did, he couldn't take it anymore because people were hounding him.
Yes.
And how much money did we gain because of his?
Yes. Kelly, in the time that Andy was up there, and Andy was strictly enforcing those rules, how many, off the top of your head, how many additional permits did you sell like mid-year? I want to say it was
33 at the full price, I think it was 15 at the second.
And I remember that number was about $12,000 to $15,000 in revenue. And I say this gently, but technically speaking, if you go up there without a permit and you deposit your trash, you're essentially, that's theft of municipal services. And again, as I said before, no matter what the board does tonight, we're still a cost effect. It may not feel it to the person that has to pay it. We all recognize that. But we're trying to do a good job of explaining why it has to be done. And when you compare other communities, and when you get out of Adams a little bit, look and compare apples to apples as best you can, we're still pretty cost effective for what we're able to offer here. We would not be recommending this figure if we didn't think it was necessary. I mean, we went $25 3 years ago, and we didn't raise it. We were content. If we went up $5 a year for the last 3 years, we'd be about $95 now.
I think too that it's almost a social gathering up there. It's a sense of pride when people bring their things, it makes them feel good. They're recycling and doing what they should do. So as Rick mentioned, I really don't have any problem with, the rates going up. I used to think that once the rates got to a certain point, that you're gonna find more trash on the side of the roads, but I don't believe that anymore because people are gonna dispose stuff on the side of the road regardless.
And Kelly can tell you that some of the conversations, she and Chrissy are doing a great job, as much time and patience as they can, to educate people when they come to the window and say, what value do I have? And when, Kelly and Chrissy explain what people are getting for that permit and what the other permit fees are, they realize it's not a bad value. So our numbers have been increasing. At least in the short 4 years that I've been here, we've seen more permit holders. And you saw what happened when we strictly enforced it. So that goes to tell you that there were a lot of folks using the facility that were not obtaining the permit. So we need to be sure, as reasonable as possible, that attendant is, watching that. It becomes a very awkward social situation. What do you do when the person is there without the permit and they've already thrown their trash? It's a challenge, and we simply ask people to take into account, this is to protect the revenue of the town of Adams for those folks who are using the facility and the Adams taxpayer. The attendant enforces these rules at every other transfer station across the Commonwealth. It is not an Adams-centric operation. We do this everywhere at a transfer station. You have to have a permit, and it's checked by an attendant.
Anything else? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or an abstention?
Did you get a
That is
second for that?
Unanimous.
Yes.
Yes,
Second,
Howard
okay.
did. Okay, thank you. So, Jay, why don't you take us through the cemetery fees discussion? I'll just remind the board that Bruce Shepley, who is chair, I think, of the Cemetery Commission?
Yes.
Came before the board probably about a year ago, or within the last year, and did a workshop presenting information to the board about looking at the fees, and there's a recommendation here. So, Jay, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you. Sorry to be the harbinger of fee conversations tonight. It's just the way that the timing worked out. Mr. Shepley put together just some facts I think are important for everybody to understand before we undertake this. The last adjustment to cemetery fees was in the fall of 2014 with an implementation that went into effect in January of 2015. So we're 8 or 9 years removed from the last time that any of these fees were looked at and adjusted. Fees were compared to the following municipalities: North Adams, Williamstown, and Cheshire at that time. In the town of Adams, fees are significantly less expensive than privately operated cemeteries. That would be the city of Pittsfield and St. Joseph's Primary Cemetery, also in Pittsfield, run by the Diocese of Springfield. Bruce indicated that the cost of living since 2015, it went up from $1 to about $1.15, and he wrote this a couple years ago as well. So he indicated that, again, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Consumer Price Index, it was time to increase those numbers. Presently speaking, for certain lots at the cemeteries, it's about $450. North Adams is $400. Williamstown is $450. Cheshire is $125. And those numbers go up. That's the most common lot. I can tell you what those numbers are, but you have those in front of you to see what they are. There's different interment fees as well. So you have to buy the lot. There's different types of lots. Then there's a lot deed fee, and then there's an interment fee. There's also a winter ground thaw. So we bury in the winter. Some facilities do not. They have other facilities to hold the remains until the ground thaws. We thaw, and we bury year-round as well. And we also bury on Saturdays. That's overtime costs for our DPW to go out, to the cemetery team, to go out on Saturdays in order to open the grave and close the grave as well. So that is a cost as well, and that cost is not recovered by burial fees. That cost is budgeted in the standard DPW overtime line item as well. You'll see that Mr. Shepley has indicated what the 2015 rates were and then what they were proposed in 2021 to go up. I asked Bruce if he felt they should go up more. He said that the board could certainly entertain that to make up for the lack of 2 years. But felt that those numbers might hold, and the Cemetery Commission would certainly review them during the course of this year. Before you undertake any that or ask any questions about the fees, I think it's best to allow Crystal to explain to you and to the public exactly where these fees go, what monies we have available for the cemetery. We talked a little bit about capital needs for the cemetery. We redid Bellevue Maintenance Facility several years ago, I think 2019, 2020, just when I started. We have a water system issue that needs to be addressed at Bellevue as well. We have some fencing issues, there's landscaping issues. Most of those costs are essentially right now paid for on the tax rate from the cemetery assessment, not these fees. So I want Crystal to explain what these numbers are, what we can use, not use, and what we're going to try to do forward, working with the Cemetery Commission to begin to use some of these fees and explain to you why the fees at this point should go up a little bit and what we intend, what bang for the buck we're going to get with them. So Crystal, why don't you go ahead? And she's going to be using this document that you have.
Okay, so this is as of April 30th. The very top line, this cemetery perpetual care, in our principal, we have about $444,000. That money is restricted and not available for use per Massachusetts general law. We cannot touch the perpetual care principal, and that's, I don't know the exact reason as to why, but it is the Massachusetts general law that the money that goes into that account cannot be used. And the money that does go into that account is, it's our burial fees for perpetual care. Like when you purchase a lot from us, you see right on the breakdown that there's a fee for burial fees, and it's literally for perpetual care of the lots. The perpetual care interest, as of April 30th, is about $35,000. That money is available for use with the town meeting appropriation, and that's just the interest that we earn on principal that we can't use. The cemetery investment fund / sale of lots account has about $294,000 in it. That is also available for use with a town meeting appropriation. The money that goes into there is the sale of burial lots, and the interest lives in that account. It's not separated like the perpetual care is. In the cemetery maintenance fund, we have about $14,975, and Bruce is actually one to educate me on what goes in there, and that is foundation inspections of like the bigger mausoleums, for stones, that kind of stuff. So those are the fees for the foundation inspections, and the interest also lives in that account. It's not separated like the principal or the perpetual care is. You'll also see on your spreadsheets that we have 3 specific trust funds that are for specific mausoleums, and the money in those accounts can only be used for those mausoleums, and they are funded by the families of those individuals that donate money over the years.
So thus the finances of our cemetery operations. What we would like to do with the money that can be appropriated by town meeting, which is that $14,294,000 and then that interest of $35,000, is every year be able to begin to appropriate a little bit of that money or augment that amount with some capital funds to undertake some needed repairs. The most pressing is to repair the water system at Bellevue Cemetery. We had a meeting this past week with Mr. Shepley, Mr. Coda, Mr. Coughlin from Community Development, and we're going to engage Superintendent Barrett over at Adams Water District. And because it's non-potable, we should be able to restore water service, non-potable water service to sections of Bellevue for a decent amount of money. I don't want to quote that because this economy is very unique, but we're going to use techniques such as what's called PEX equipment or PEX pipe, which is a plastic. It doesn't have to be buried below frost line, which you save money on. You don't have to trench it that deep. So there's ways to do this. We want to begin to use some of this money for that. I think Bruce had told us the last time we appropriated was for Bellevue Garage, the cemetery building up there. So it's time to start doing that, but it's also time, as Bruce in the Cemetery Commission said, if we're going to do some of these projects, we should look at what money's going into those accounts. And obviously, having not raised fees in 8 years, we need to keep up if we're going to be doing work, because again, similar to transfer station, this is also on the taxpayer as well, whether or not they ever use the cemetery or plan to. The real estate tax pays for the maintenance and upkeep and labor associated with the cemeteries. These fees assist in deferring those costs. And you'll see that last sheet for your debate, which is listed as page 1, 2015 rate, which is our current rates versus the proposed adjustment. And I'm not going to list all those different fees. They're there. There's quite a few of them, but you can see some of the increases that are being proposed are moderate, others are slightly more. I also cannot tell you exactly what our inventory for lots is left. Maple is closed for new burials, to my understanding. Bellevue is still open. There's some sections of Bellevue that can be used, and one of the things that the Cemetery Commission wants to talk about is being able to do an inventory of available lots up there. We don't have a provision yet where folks can sell back lots. So there are some unused lots up there, and we'd like the opportunity to, so some of the things that the commission wants to take on down the road.
Yeah, through the chair, I attend the cemetery commission meetings, and one thing that they were wrestling with is how do you determine whether someone's a non-resident or a resident? Because some people were born in Adams, and they move away, and they claim that they're residents because they bought a plot and that type of thing. So there was a lot of debate about that, and I don't think, I went to all the meetings after that, and I don't think they came to a resolution of what is a non-resident compared to a resident.
Right, how it's defined.
Yep. So, I mean, you're talking, quite a bit. If it's a resident lot, $450, but then non-residents, $850. That's, a substantial more amount of money, but they could just never peg how to determine a non-resident from a resident when people are born in Adams and they move away. And so that was one consideration they had. I don't know if they've ever rectified it.
Yeah, I don't know what they use now for the definition of it. Bruce did mention that, and I know that they probably plan to have another meeting sometime in June, because one of the other issues that have come up is some of these Saturday burials, the rule is you have to be concluded, the funeral directors understand you have to be concluded by noon on Saturday. And again, every public cemetery, municipal cemetery has that rule, and that's because Saturday is overtime by union contracts. Some cemeteries have found, and we found it here, that it doesn't happen all the time, but it's been creeping over noon, 1, 2 o'clock. And out of respect for that family, you don't need the DPW employees, and they will not go and say, hey, you need to leave. But it is costing the municipality additional funds. Adams does not have a fee for if it runs over noon. Other communities do, and I know that the commission, Mr. Shepley has indicated they want to look at that, take that on, determine what that fee should be consistent with other municipal cemetery operations. So they might take up the residency thing then too, Joe, at that meeting.
So the board has in front of them the page, as the town administrator mentioned, that has the 2015 rate, and then the other header says 2021 proposed adjustment. So my apologies for misspeaking when I said that Mr. Shepley came to us a year ago. I guess it was a little more than that. Where it does indicate, do you need a copy?
One.
Yeah, I think mine got mixed up with Joe's stuff.
Oh.
Here, take this thing.
We can
Where's your packet? Sure enough. Your packet.
So it's going to look like this page.
Yeah, that's okay, just take that, I'll look at it. I just wondered where your packet is.
So listed here are the resident lots, the non-resident lots, the resident perpetual care, the non-resident perpetual care, the lot deed, the interment fees, and the winter ground thaw. Those are all the categories that are in front of us. So you'll see the 2015 rate, you'll see what is being proposed by the Cemetery Commission for the Board of Selectmen to take effect July 1st of 2023.
Yes.
Even though it does say 2021. This is their request.
Mr. Shepley sends his regrets. He would be here, but he had another engagement tonight.
Crystal, these numbers, will they bring us into parity with what the town's obligation is? Will they cover the increase in cost, or?
I believe When Mr. Shepley worked with Mr. Rose, they said that that was the goal, that it's going to get us closer to it. We can't guarantee that it will bring us exactly in line, but that's the goal, work us towards that.
Yeah, I'd like to say before I vote that, you know, the cemetery commission is the commission that oversees, of course, the cemeteries, and I think we should listen to what they say, and I don't like things because you put up, you know, that's your last time quote on earth, and then to put the prices up, but I see we have no choice. So I'm gonna go with it, but I won't put forth the motion, because I firmly believe that we should listen to our commissions that oversee aspects of our community.
I do have an extra copy, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think.
Do you need a, does anyone need a copy? Rick, do you want one?
Here, I'll grab it. I'll give Joe back, please.
Okay.
I
Thank
don't
you.
have an extra.
Thanks, Bree.
So I have a question.
Certainly.
Thank you. All the proposed adjustments that are being requested, all of those funds go into line items that require town meeting approval.
Yes.
Every penny that is raised from these adjustments will go into those accounts. Currently, those accounts approximately add up to 200 or 340 to 50,000, right? So I think last time this was brought forward, I had the same questions, that you have 340 to 50,000, that all of those need town meeting approval. Sorry, I should talk to this guy. Town meeting approval.
Talk to both of us.
All right, everything that comes in, right? So they have 345 to 350,000, not counting the perpetual care line item, which cannot be touched. All right, so I see that amount, which is higher than many of the accounts that we have. Why not use some of those 350,000 for capital investments, since everything goes into these accounts and everything. So in other words, they are in pretty good shape financially. If you look at what they have, they got to go through town meeting, which is I'm sure is a pain, but they do have the funds and they're doing okay. Not compared to the transfer station, which we just spent a lot of time on discussing, right? Again, back to you. All right, so.
Remember, when we did the building up there, those accounts were depleted substantially because the building was so much money. So that was a one-time project that depleted the majority of that, and this is only about 3 or 4 years worth of revenue at a 2015 number. The goal of this is to rationalize the fees so that they're competitive with what average costs are across the county, and then have that replenish the money so we can actually start spending it to do improvements, because other than that building, we haven't done any improvements up there, like the water system again needs to be done. We think that water system project will probably be around $50,000, but if it isn't, and let's say it's $100,000, that $294,000 that's there would just be depleted by $100,000. So what the cemetery commission's saying is that the replenishment rate is insufficient in order for us to take on these capital projects using this money at the 2015 rate.
So what was that garage, when was finances expended to pay for the garage? In 3 years, we've gone up to 350,000. If we depleted it so much, we're still at 350 grand. So it did very well after that capital expense was done.
Because we're not spending any of the money, and any of the costs associated with the cemetery are in the budget.
So you're saying,
So if I may, if I'm hearing it correctly.
sure, that's what I need to know.
So, like, say 4 or 5 years ago, the garage was done, it depleted all of the funds. We've now had to wait 3 to 4 years to
John's
get
assessment's
enough,
correct,
to get
yes.
enough money to then do some maintenance projects. However, with the increase in the fees, we're hoping to increase these funds so that we might be able to take on a capital project every year or every 2 years, but doing more maintenance on our facilities than we've been able to do, because we're currently waiting 4 years for the fund to garner enough money for us to then do a large project.
Yes.
Because you mentioned the water system, you mentioned some fencing, you
Yes.
mentioned just some upgrades that could then be part of the annual town meeting warrant. I will let you speak, I promise. The annual town meeting warrant
Yep.
Annually for us to then be allocating these funds.
I would also add that Mr. Shepley noted too, that right now when we buy equipment, if you look at the equipment that's used up there, they're a combination of walk-behind mowers and sit-down zero-turn mowers. Those are purchased from the town's capital budget. So let's just say we buy 2 sit-downs in any given year, that's $50,000 to $75,000, because those Skag sit-downs are expensive, and we use them, and they get beat up from being used. We can begin to purchase that equipment using these funds and not spend capital money on those, and apply that capital money, either don't spend it, leave it in free cash, or spend it elsewhere where we don't have another revenue source for it. Also, the board could, if it desired, and Finance Committee, if it desired, could appropriate money from these accounts and apply them for example, the section of the budget, and Crystal will interrupt me if I misspeak, there's a section of the budget where we pull money in from the parking fund and the Council on Aging fund. We could pull money into the budget using these funds as well, which offsets what we spend or need to raise on cemetery expenses, or the capital money that we would spend for equipment. So there's ways that we can, again, ease this burden on the taxpayer for cemetery costs by better effectively managing and using these funds. But at 2015 rates, if we start doing that, we're gonna chase ourselves out in a matter of a couple of years. So John's correct in his questioning and how he's reading this. It's just at the 2015 rate, if we start spending it, that 294 is gonna, it all depends on how many lots we sell a year.
Right.
Plus, there's a lot of tree work that needs to be done in those cemeteries. Where my dad and ma's plot is, there's 3 large ash trees that are completely dead and branches falling off, and I feel that they should be removed. If you go through the cemetery, there should be a lot of work done on a lot of those trees to, keep them as long as you can, because they certainly make a difference, in my opinion.
We could do that. Now that we're paying attention to this, and we understand this better, and the commission understands it better, we could every year do a tree program using these funds. Ask town meeting to appropriate X amount of dollars, per year out of these funds for tree maintenance, and that takes the burden off DPW as well, and allows a contractor to go up there and do that.
All right, so I would support the increases if, it's my own opinion, it's not a board's decision, but that all of the capital expenses going forward for the cemetery come out of these funds, and all the maintenance, and you're right, Joe, I agree, there's a lot of things that need to be done up there. But that it's like a revolving account. They need town meeting approval, but everything that needs to be done at the cemeteries, all the equipment needs to be purchased, all the upgrades need to be done at the cemetery. With these increases that we approved this evening, we'll be able to, just like we do at the transfer station, try to get to the transfer station, that it'll be its own revolving account going forward. Okay, thank you.
And we can charge the cemetery commission to work on that each year to bring something forward to annual town meeting.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like to see it.
And I know that Mr. Shepley, would be very happy to present to the board. I know that once we have a rough idea of how we're going to do that water system project up there, we'll present that to the board. And I know that that's a long time coming for folks as well.
What is the board's pleasure?
Can I do it as provided, or do I have to list out everything?
You can do it as provided, as recommended by the cemetery commission, as presented, and that's document number labeled 1.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to board approve the cemetery commission's proposed rate increases.
From 2021. That's how the column is labeled.
From 2021. Okay.
I have a motion by Member Blanchard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Rosenberg. I would just ask if you could amend the motion to state to go into effect July 1.
Thank you.
2023.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to, because we didn't give the numbers, I'd like to maybe put it on our website or something if we okay it so that people are aware of it, so
Yeah.
they can see.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. And maybe we can also ask the Cemetery Commission to put their definition of resident and non-resident on the
I don't know if they
website.
have one yet. I think
Okay.
that's been the problem, but perhaps
Well,
they.
we could charge them with that
Well, I think-
responsibility.
Yeah, they will, yeah, they'll look at it. We'll talk to
Yeah.
Michelle too, what they use now.
Sure.
I
They have to have
I didn't want
something.
to say it earlier because I'm not 100% sure about this, but applying common sense, I think when the lot is purchased, if the person has an Adams address, it's a resident fee. If the person moves away and just wants to be interred back in Adams, but they're living on estate, it's treated at that time as a non-resident.
That's
believe
where the
that's
gist
what-
of the conversation kind of ended.
You open up a can of worms. Say my aunt and uncle who lived here for 50, 60 years and then moved to Florida and then unfortunately were deceased. Now they're a non-resident?
Yep.
But maybe they purchased their lot before they moved to Florida.
But that's just my assumption. I don't know what Michelle uses right now to
But if you-
determine that.
Sorry.
If
gotten weird.
they're not paying property taxes, they're not a resident, then the economics actually support that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the point in
Yeah,
having the two.
and let's be clear about that in defining resident.
Again, because this is a municipal cemetery operation, which means in theory, it's not making money. Everything that we do in the town essentially is almost subsidized by taxes. When you have a private cemetery operation, the fees are much higher because it's a for-profit operation. So that's why we have the two different fees.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or an abstention? Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please thank the Cemetery Commission for their work.
Yes.
All right, that brings us to item M, under new business.
How timely.
How timely, yes. So we wanted to bring forward the possibility of changing the start time for the Board of Selectmen meetings and proposing a start time of 6 PM versus 7 PM. I know that the conversation was had with Northern Berkshire Community Television about the change. Peter's giving 2 thumbs up about the earlier start time, which is not unheard of. I mean, when we do start to put together agendas and we ask people to come and present to the board, a 7 PM start time is somewhat difficult. I know that there were individuals this evening who were anxious to get home to put little ones to bed or whatever it might be. So a 7 PM start time has been somewhat difficult for presenters and speakers. So the request is to see if the board would entertain moving to a 6 PM start time. I, in talking with the town administrator, had asked that we would, if we were to go forward with a 6 PM start time, that we wouldn't do so until the middle of July to give individuals, the public, the opportunity to know that the start time has changed, because this would be, and for some people, a big change. But that would give about 2 months for staff and the board to educate the public that the meetings might change. So I wanted to bring that forward for the board to discuss, as we have been getting feedback about an earlier start time would be desired. Anyone have any feedback? Or
Well, I'd
wanna
like
move
to say
forward?
this is the first I've heard of it, when I got the agenda, had no idea that this was going to be brought forth. Are we doing this for the employees of Adams, or are we doing this for the citizens of Adams? Is my question, because a 6 o'clock time will certainly be advantageous to our town employees. They can get back to their homes because a lot of them are out of, live out of Adams and, have a traveling to do to get home. But, the people of Adams, I mean, these meetings, ever since I can remember, were at 7 o'clock. It's just become a mainstay. A lot of people don't get home that want to watch these, for 6 o'clock and that type of thing. So I don't know, I hate to get stuff given to me, I'm going to abstain from it because I didn't have enough time to digest it, and I don't like that. I don't like making a decision without giving it some thought.
And for the record, I did not state it was employee-driven. I've stated that it
No, I
was...
didn't say, I'm bringing that up.
You asked if it was for the employees, and I'm saying that is not one of the reasons.
Okay.
Quite a few of the presenters this evening were all jockeying to be earlier on the agenda so that they could get home and put kids to bed.
Well, I mean, is that just...
That's not unique to tonight. That is on a regular basis, or we can't get people to come to the meeting because it starts so late.
Okay, well, that's your thought. I don't see it that way. If somebody wants to come forward and discuss a matter that's important to them, they'll get a babysitter or that type of thing. So, I just don't like making decisions on something that the town of Adams has done for ever since I can remember. It's been 7 o'clock, and I went back and I looked. There's communities that do 6, but there's still the same communities that 7 o'clock, and they have children and people that come to those meetings too. So I'm just going to abstain because I don't have enough time to digest this, to make a decision just spontaneously. And that's what I'd feel I'd be doing.
Any other feedback?
Personally, I'd be fine with it either way, because like tonight, I'm running into a situation where I have to leave very soon.
Right. Yep.
And I think y'all know the reason why.
Yep. That was also taken into consideration, because our meetings do run late. And community television. You were factored into this discussion as well. So I appreciated the 2 thumbs up, Peter. Anything else from anyone?
I'm okay with 6. Workshops start at 6. Our meetings do run long, especially when we have executive session. We get out here at 10 o'clock at night. Having a meeting that late and discussion can kind of get off topic when people get tired, and I've seen that. But just speaking for myself, as a member of the Board of Selectmen, 6 o'clock would be fine for me. Leaving work, come to the meeting, and get home at a reasonable hour would be beneficial. But if someone needs more time, we can bring this up again at a future meeting.
That's fine. If the board doesn't want to take any action, that's fine.
Joe, would you be more supportive and you have enough time to do your homework if you table this for the next meeting?
No, I don't want to insinuate that or to change something. This is on the agenda. I wish I had more time, but it's on the agenda, so whatever the board votes, I don't want to deter a decision tonight. So I'm just letting you know I'm abstaining because I just didn't have time to digest it. And I don't know if, given extra time, I'd be able to make any more discussion than I just did, but I don't like things just thrown at me haphazardly without being, because when I looked at that I got the agenda, and there, boy, that's just a big change for this community, I think.
So I think we can also pass a motion that if there's an overwhelming argument against it, that we can always change it back. So it's not like it's a terminal decision.
Right.
Okay? So I'll make a motion to change the time of the start of the select board meeting from 7 o'clock on Wednesdays to 6 PM on Wednesdays.
Okay. Yep, I have a motion by Vice Chair Rosenberg. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Could you add effective?
Effective, Jeff.
Effective, July 19th would be the middle of July, or a date of your choosing, if you wanted to go later than that. I was recommending at least 2 months' notice.
Okay, so that'll be July 19th?
July 19th, that's 2 months. Okay. And then are you okay with
Yes,
the?
and I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? And anyone abstaining?
Abstain.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll get the information out and you need to
With
head
that,
out.
I have to go.
Yep, thank you.
Take care, Rick.
So we do have subcommittee and liaison reports. Joe?
I attended the Parks Commission meeting. It was a short meeting. The only thing of any importance I can report is that the youth center is going to restart their tennis program down at the fields. They've discussed it with the Parks Commission, okayed it, and it won't bother or take away from any other use of the tennis court. And then I went yesterday to a planning board meeting, and that I thought was really important, but I got there and they didn't have a quorum, and I didn't know that, so I went down and, of course, they had to cancel it, and there were some big issues that I wanted to listen in on, so I went to it, but no one was there. I mean, people were there, but they didn't have a quorum, and so they rescheduled it. I think it's coming up soon, I'm not sure.
Monday the 22nd.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because there's some big decisions to be made there. And that's all I had for that.
Okay, thank you. Howard? John?
Good.
So I just have two things. One, the visitor center has been prepped and ready for the season. The season does begin Memorial Day weekend, and volunteers are encouraged to reach out. I know my email address is on the town's website, so if people wanted to let me know that they were interested in volunteering, they can, and I can put them in touch with our volunteer coordinator. And I also wanted to bring to the board's attention, last year I spoke to the board about the BRTA appointment from this board. The BRTA advisory board meets monthly on Thursdays at 4 p.m. in Pittsfield. Last year I did indicate to the board that I have had a change in my work schedule that prevents me from attending most of those meetings. That is still the case. And I feel that somebody should be sitting at those meetings representing the town of Adams better than I've been able to do so given to my time restraints. So I am asking the board to consider somebody on this board serving in that role with the BRTA. I would ask, we have to make this appointment before July 1st. So I am asking the board to consider that and to think through it before June 7th, which is our town meeting. If you are interested, to let Jay or Bree know that you are interested in serving so that we can make that annual appointment. If I don't hear from anybody on the board by June 7th, I will work with the town administrator to see if there's a staff member who can serve. But I cannot, in good faith, accept another appointment on the BRTA advisory board. So I just wanted to give the board my notice for the second year in a row that it is not my intention to be reappointed. That'll bring me to announcements and go to the order. Joe?
Yes, a few things. This being National Police Week, I want to just thank our policemen here in Adams and all the policemen throughout the county and the country, and we're with you. Also, I have a question for Jay. Jay, how are we standing on the police contract negotiations?
It's still ongoing.
Okay, still ongoing? Okay. Also, two other things that I want some clarification on is, February 1st, I got a letter, I believe everyone else did, from from Ed St. John, our attorney at law, saying, "I am pleased to advise you that the land court has finally moved on the 3 tax petitions I filed in the above matter." That's Curtis Paper. Last week, the court issued orders that will ultimately lead to the steps necessary to finalize these petitions. I will keep you posted on future developments. Now, have we had any future developments? This was February 1st.
Not in the land court.
I can ask the Attorney St. John to come to a meeting and provide a status.
Yeah, thank you. And then is having to do with the Adams Fire District. As soon as I read in iBerkshires about the overlay of the whole town, I sent a letter to Jay, and I'm not happy with that at all. I don't think that that there was any transparency. So in short, I don't think that what they did was right, and I know a lot of people that, well, not a lot, I keep saying a lot, but about 6, 7 people have told me that they don't think it's fair because they're out of the district, they don't use the water. And my concern is that if they're going to do that and they can't give fire safety, I don't want to be in a position as a town person, you know, that, well, my house burned down because we couldn't get, you know, the tankers up there in time and that type of thing. So I'll just read what I wrote, and it's quick. I was perplexed to read that the Prudential Committee at their annual town meeting voted to expand the district to overlay the whole town of Adams. Citizens from outside the district have been taken to the cleaners. Residents from outside the water district came in front of our board, meaning the Selectmen, and spoke their piece and made much sense. How can this be without a hearing by the Prudential Committee Water District to level this decision? It's a farce. It's only being done to defray costs incurred by the court decision, which went against their past practices. Talk about no transparency. And so that's what I wrote, and that's all I have. I don't think that's right.
Joe, did you send that to the Prudential Committee?
No.
You should.
I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
They should hear that from you.
Yeah, I will do so.
All right, anything else?
Yes, tomorrow, Thursday at 5:30, the Up and Adams Wellness Initiative is going to have a foraging event at Greylock Glen to allow people to see what herbs, natural herbs and plants are in the area that they can use for their self-healing.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Is that a recurring event or is it a one-time?
It's been recurring for 3 weeks, and I think the final one will be next week.
May I ask who's running that?
The Up and Adams Initiative.
Who's taking you around to show them?
Oh, that is Molly Reset, and she's an herbalist.
Okay.
Thank you. John?
I received a phone call from a resident in regards to a no parking sign that was posted on High Street. I'd like to have that added to the list to the Traffic Commission to come back since their last meeting, which I'm not sure when that was held, to provide all of the updates that have been made throughout the town in regards to that bylaw. Board of Selectmen determines the location and determines if there's no parking sign, I believe, where it should be located. After we identify and approve all of the membership of all of the positions and boards and traffic commission, that we get that list going so we can take care of some of these issues that the residents have been questioning.
I'll put that on a future agenda
Thank you.
for an update from the Traffic Commission.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, so just a couple of things. For the board, for your calendars, keep in mind, we have a workshop coming up on May 31st. That is a joint workshop with the Finance Committee to review the fiscal 2022 audit. Thank you for the, for the confirmation. That will take place at 6 p.m. in the library. That is the next time this board will meet. So our next gathering will be a workshop with the Finance Committee on May 31st in the library at 6 p.m. You have received your audit, your copies of the audit, so please bring that with you, because we won't be providing another one that evening, so you should have that with you. The following week will be our annual town meeting. That is June 7th, 6 p.m. at the Memorial Building. So please mark your calendars for that. And our next regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting will be on June 21st. That will be at 7 p.m. It'll be in this room. And we do look to be looking at the annual appointments at that meeting. So if there's anybody who's watching still, who is interested in serving on a committee or a commission, then now is the time to speak up and let us know, because we will be reviewing that over the next couple of weeks and providing that to the board for the annual appointments that go into effect July 1. And with that, I don't think there's anything else to come before the board. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you.